Getting to the top is a bonus. And I think it's crucial that you look at it that way, because if you focus on the goal, you're not going to do it.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Struggle Climbing Show. Happy New Year. I'm so psyched that you're here. It's me, Ryan Devlin. I'm your host of this show, and my whole point in making this show as a weekend warrior myself is just to connect with super inspiring and accomplished climbers, whether they're professionals, coaches, or just amateur weekend warriors like me and you, to help us get stoked and educated and level up in the sport that we love so much. And today's conversation with Tim Emmett definitely delivers in all of those buckets. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited you're here. And I'm so excited that I got to have this conversation with Tim pretty fresh off of his return from Spain, where he accomplished his life goal, the life project, if you will, Era Vella, a 514D or 9A route that he has been working on for 8 years. And did he send it? Yes, he sent it. Holy smokes, did he send it. On day 130, 8 years after his first trip out there, at 51 years old, Tim Emmett, stronger, fitter, and technically better than he was in his 30s and 40s, sent the route on the last day, last go, +1. He'll tell us a little bit about that. Basically, he was needing to head to the airport, and like a miracle happened, and he was able to get one more go in. And that was the one. Oh, the Stoke meter is off the charts on this. In fact, if you're into drinking games, well, it's dry January for a lot of you. So, pull out your non-alcoholic drink there and just take a sip for every time I say Stoke or Tim says Stoke. And you'll be properly drunk or not drunk by the end of this episode, depending on what you have in your hand. And then we have just a banger and extra stoked bonus episode for Patreon and Apple subscribers, where Tim answers your questions and talks even more about how we can get better as climbers as we get into our 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that on the back end. And I'll also tell you about me and like what's been going on with me. I took a couple weeks off for the holidays. I mean, I didn't really take weeks off. In fact, it was more exhausting, having the kids home than just doing like normal work weeks. But it was wonderful. I'm happy. I'm exhausted. And I'm recording this now on the Monday of school going back. So my wife and I did a little happy dance after dropping the kids off at school. And now I've got a mountain of emails and work to get through, but I am so excited about this season. We've got incredible guests lined up and pro clinics and coach chats and some cool bonus stuff. So welcome to your Struggle Climbing Show 2026. Reach out to me if you've got any thoughts or questions or input. I'd love to hear from you. And let's jump in right now with a total ledge, Tim Emmett. I'm happy to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's funny, isn't it? Like after our last chat, I mean, you've been sending, I've been sending, so it's good, eh?
It feels good to send, doesn't it, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it does, but like, blimey, I wasn't expecting what happened on this one. And we haven't talked about that yet, but like, yeah, it's not what I was expecting at all.
Well, dude, I'm just so glad we could connect, still in the afterglow, if you will, of the big send. And I got to tell you, like, the outpouring of support and love after you did the thing, because you kind of went quiet for a while on social media, and then you did the thing. I mean, God, that must have just been so incredible to experience.
It really was. It was actually a bit overwhelming. I mean, because I did the route literally at the absolute last minute. As soon as I lowered off, I was then traveling for the next 72 hours. And I didn't really get a chance to like look at all the messages. And then I ended up getting like 1,200 messages or something. And then I picked up my kid, and I hadn't seen my kid for like 6 weeks. Right. So, and then I went straight into 4 shows that I was hosting on the West Coast. So it was, and then I had to deal with like 9 hours of jet lag as well. So it was crazy. It was crazy. Like that whole experience was like it was like being in a dream. And it's been really great to be able to just kind of chill out a little bit and let it all settle in and be at home with the family and catch up, so it's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's so much to like unpack and explore and celebrate and examine from this past year and 8 years and just a few weeks. So I've got kind of a bit of a rubric here. Like I've put a lot of thought into this because I have to say, when I saw your post, it was a very raw, very emotional post where you're just kind of talking to us, talking to the camera, and you're like, I did it. And then just kind of this wave of emotion came over. I shared that emotion. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes. In fact, I made my own kind of selfie video to my phone that I sent out to the Patreon community for the Struggle Climbing Show, just being like, you guys, like, I didn't think this was going to be as meaningful to me, just seeing that he had done this. Like, I felt like I was there. I think a lot of people maybe felt that. That was part of the response that you got on your post there. And I just have to say, dude, like, it filled my heart up times 1,000 when I saw that video from you. So huge congratulations. And we'll unpack probably every nuance of it, but just, I'm so psyched for you.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you so much. I didn't know that was going to happen when I started recording. I just was like, right, here's what, like I did every time or every other time, I just pressed play and started speaking. And then, of course, it erupted. And I didn't know that was going to happen. I mean, if you haven't seen it, like, basically, I just like sobbed my eyes out, and I haven't cried on a climb in my life ever. And actually, I don't cry hardly ever. Like, the only times I ever cry is when like people die, and it was just really overwhelming. And and even though I kind of erupted emotionally then for however long it was, like I actually continued that for like 48 hours. It wasn't like a 2-minute thing. It was like every time I thought about sending it, I'd just burst into tears. And or if I'd see someone who I hadn't, or speak, I mean, I phoned up a whole bunch of people, a lot of people that have been so involved. And I just like burst into tears basically. And even if I said I did it, that would it, I'd just erupt. And like, I didn't know that was possible in climbing at all. I've never seen anyone else do that. I've seen people celebrate when they get to the top of routes. Like when Gresham sent Lexicon in the Lake District, with that E11, which was like the highlight of his career, he had a few tears. And I got that, but like, I was just like a sobbing wreck. And I felt like an emotional train wreck, actually. After like 48 hours, I was just ruined because of like the amount of emotion that had come out. And then I met up with my son Rocco, and then we went out to Squamish together, like the two of us. Because I mean, like, there's one thing like putting so much effort into a climb, but then every night when you come home and you phone up your kid, and your kid's like, hey dad, did you do it? And he said, and you're like, no. And you do that for like 6 weeks on a trip, and he's like, oh dad, I really want you to do it so you can come home.
Oh God.
And you're just like, oh dude, like, I think one of the reasons why I was so emotional is because the number of times that it's just a relentless failure, and you're trying to keep positive, like one of the things about projecting. I mean, I was looking back at this actually, and I got past the last bowl in 2019.
Wow.
I started climbing it in 2017. And I didn't do very well. 2018, I got one move higher. 2019 was a real breakthrough. And I did so well in 2019 that I came home, and then I went back a month later. And then on like, what was it, May the 16th or something, I actually got past the last bowl. And then it took me another 6 years to get up to that point again. And then I sent it, and it's just 6 years of effort to try and get up to that high point, and it, and not doing it, basically not getting to that point that you got to 6 years before.
Oh my
And
God.
if you consider how much effort that took just to get back up to that high point, and it's just relentless failure, basically. And I think that's why I erupted so emotionally, because I just didn't know whether it was ever gonna happen, really. And I'm getting older, like I'm 51, and I started it when I was 43, and I've lost my mum, I lost my dad, I had a rotator cuff injury that took 18 months to recover. I had another rotator cuff injury on my right arm that I stopped climbing for a year. I broke my shoulder, my scapula, so that all these different things were happening, and I was getting older. And then in last year, I went there, and it rained like every day for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was getting injured. Like I had tennis elbow in my elbow, and it was so severe that I couldn't do a pull up. So I was, like normally with my warm ups for Era Vella, I do like loads of pull ups, or I do some pull ups, and I just couldn't do that. I couldn't do a pull up because it was so excruciating. I mean, I was taking like 800 milligrams of ibuprofen before I went climbing, just so that I could try and climb, and I still couldn't do a pull up. And I managed to one hang it without being able to do a pull up. Anyway, so it's really been to say a roller coaster ride. I mean, I basically immersed my life into that route specifically for 8 years, and also trying to handle being away from family. I mean, being away from Katie and being away from Rocco, and Rocco really needing his dad to be around, and I'm just not there.
Yeah.
I'll talk to him for a few minutes each day. I mean, to be honest, like on this trip, it got to the point where he actually didn't really want to talk to me anymore because he was pissed off that I wasn't there, I wasn't at home. And I was just like, any parent out there, I mean, it kind of breaks your heart when you really want to, you don't want to just do the route, you want to do the route so you can go home and hang out with your kid because he needs you. And he was just like, look, Dad, you're not here, so I don't really want to talk to you. So,
Wow. Well, I've
yeah.
experienced that myself. How old is Rocco?
He's 12.
Okay. So I've got an 11-year-old, so very similar, and yeah, those the emotions are big in that age range, just with the hormones and the things that are happening anyway. But then the guilt that can be heaped upon us as just professionals trying to do the best we can for our families, but then beyond that, when we're passionate about something, wanting to be able to work that into our lives, and it's a tough juggling act. And this was a question that I had intended to ask you in a little bit here, but I think we're talking about it, so why not? We can shift my order here. And that's, we'll talk a lot about the climb, right? The training, the mental game that goes into it, the difference makers this year compared to prior years, all of that. I'm excited to really geek out and get into that. But one of the questions that I had here that I jotted down was the invisible costs of taking on something like this, a huge project that isn't in the backyard. And you just mentioned a very big invisible cost right there, which is the toll that it can take on family. So I'd love to hear a bit more about that, or any other kind of invisible costs as you reflect back on 8 years of commitment to a route that was, 4,000 miles away from home?
I mean, a classic one is my wife, Katie. She was like, I mean, I can get to Dreamcatcher in 10 minutes,
Right.
but I spent 30 days on Dreamcatcher, and I was just like, there's no way I'm ever going to do this. Whereas with Era Vella, I've been up past the last bolt, 19 bolts, and I've been past the last one. So I knew it was on the cards, or it was on the table. But like trying to explain that to my wife, who doesn't climb, and she's just like, you're spending all this time and effort going so far away when you could be doing something here. But it's like the nuances of it that, Era Vella is absolutely designed around my strengths, so my strengths fit with Era Vella, and that's why I chose that route, really. So there's trying to get the green light from my wife and the support from her again and again and again and again and again and again to do the same thing and come back home without doing it, and then try it again and come back home without doing it. And oh yes, she just said, oh, I like it when you've gone.
Can you bring her in? I got a question for her.
Hey, Katie, Ryan wants to ask you a question.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Hi.
I'm excited to meet you. Okay,
This is
I've got
Ryan.
Ryan. I host a struggle climbing show, and I'm married. I've got a couple kids, and
Uh-huh.
so asking for a friend. How can I get 6 weeks to go and work on a project? What's the
I think just make yourself really, don't shower for a while. Maybe be slack on helping with the housework. Set yourself up for, maybe she wants a break from you. There you go. And
that's so
then,
that's it. So
yeah,
have her want me to go. Well, no, I mean, look, joking aside, I was just asking Tim about the invisible costs of taking on such a big and audacious project that's also not in the backyard. And the unsung heroes of this are you and Rocco and those
Yeah.
who really helped to support him to be able to chase after this dream with such an uncertain outcome. And so I'm just curious. I don't mean to put you on the hot seat here, but can you reflect for me and those who are listening right now who have partners who are stoked climbers and have partners and want to do big audacious things, but there are costs to that, and like what's the experience for you, and what was your reaction when he gave you that phone call and said he was coming home and he did it?
well, the reaction, I knew he was coming home and that was good, but I was very happy for him. I mean, for sure, I thought, okay, that's good. We won't have to do Spain, him going over to Spain anymore. Right? Of course, but it's more of a celebration for him on a lifetime achievement scale,
Yeah.
I think having one child also is not so bad at 12 years old. It's okay. And I'm supportive and I'm independent and all of those things too. So that's really how it all worked. There's a lot to the equation there.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. You're a rock star. It was great to meet you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know, actually, that wasn't the full story there because this year we got a puppy.
Oh my
And
God.
Rocco really wanted a puppy, and I like dogs. Katie's more of a cat person. Anyway, we saw this puppy, and Rocco and I were like, yeah, let's go and get this puppy. So we went and saw this puppy, and the puppy was really cute. So we bought it and then brought it home. And Katie was like, right, okay, we've got a dog. And I pretty much looked after this puppy most of the time. And it took a lot of time, like several hours a day looking after this puppy,
Yeah.
which is a border collie, by the way. And
Yeah.
and then I left and went to Spain. And then Rocco went to school. And guess who had to look after the border collie puppy?
Oh my
You know.
God, dude.
And like there were scenes where, in the middle of the night the dog would need to go out, and then Katie would wake up, let the dog out, and then the dog would go out and then wouldn't come back in the middle of the night. And Katie's like, well, what should I do? And then eventually the dog would come back with a bird in its mouth,
Oh God.
like a big bird. And Katie's like, well, I'm not taking the bird out of the dog's mouth. So, and you're not coming in here with that bird. So I don't know what to do. So that was
Standoff.
honestly, so actually, on this particular trip, pretty much every day I spoke to Katie, Angelo and I would kind of be laughing about what the next story would be about the dog, because there was always a story with the dog, you see.
Oh my God, dude! I'm for a million reasons. I'm glad you clipped those chains, but I don't know if there would have been a ninth year out there, Tim.
Oh no, there wouldn't have been. And that's, they just, I mean, you know what? Like, I was chatting with Sarah Unican the other day because I was over ice climbing with her and Will, and we talked about the idea of potentially me going back to Spain if I hadn't done it. And I was like, wow, maybe, I might have been able to pull that off. And she was like, but would you have been divorced? And I think that's the reality of it, to be honest. I mean, you can only push it so far. You've got to support family. And yeah, I don't know. I honestly can't be grateful enough for Katie looking after Rocco and this puppy and letting me be over there and trying to focus. And I mean, it was all encompassing, really. It was like, yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I totally lost it as well, because about 4 days before I did the route, I woke up and I actually felt terrible. And I don't feel like that ever. And I really felt bad. I was like, oh my God, I think this must be what it feels like to be depressed, you know? And the whole of my body was kind of like leaning forward, and I was looking at the ground, and I was just like, what is going on? And then I just like lost it and like started crying, you know, and I just lay on the bed sobbing. And I lay there for like, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes, something like that. And I was just like, oh my God, like what is this, you know? And I think that, and you know what's really interesting is that Neil Gresham, one of my closest friends, I was his best man at his wedding, and I'd asked Neil if he'd create a training plan for me, you know, about 4 months before I went to Spain. And it's something that I was kind of, and even though Neil's like he is the guy for training in the UK, and always has been, right? But I never asked him to be my trainer or to create a training plan for me. And I just thought, maybe you should ask him for a training plan. I mean, it makes sense, right? You know, you should just ask him, basically. And he basically created this like 100-page training plan specifically for me in Era Vella.
Wow.
Which was no joke, you know. And anyway, so Neil had been along on this journey right from like 4 months before. And going back to the story, when I was like sobbing on the bed, Neil was like one of the first people I phoned up after I kind of came round. And I was just like, mate, I just lost it. And he was like, yeah, I knew you were going to. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. And he said, actually, yesterday he was compiling a message that he was going to send to me saying, you're going to have a breakdown. It's going to happen. But then just before he sent it, he thought maybe but there might be some miracle where it doesn't actually happen to him. So I don't want to send this to him because that might make it happen. And I don't want to be that person. Right. And anyway, yeah, he's like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. And I guess it's just like the stress and the pressure when you come into this like time crunch where you've got a limited amount of time available and, you know, maybe you're not making progress or, you know, stuff like that. And it was a game changer, actually.
Was it cathartic to have that? Did it end up being essentially a net positive, do you think?
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah, because when I went climbing after that, I just felt so much more, I felt relaxed. And I think before that, I was so tense. I was just like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I just really wanted to do it. I really wanted it. Whereas after that, I was just like, it doesn't matter, you know. And I let go of the outcome. And I really, in hindsight, I really needed to do that to be able to climb the way that I needed to be able to do it, you know what I mean? Rather than just being tense and like, so what happened was like the times that I fell off just before that, and I was getting really high up to like the 17th bolt, like pretty much every go, and I kept falling off this flipping move. And I'd just be like, I'd rage, and I'd swear. Well, I wouldn't rage, but I'd swear when I fell off, and I'd just be like, you know, frustrated, right?
Right.
But then after I had that episode, when I fell off, I'd just be like, okay, well, you know, I'll have another go. And interestingly, I remember one day Jorge was he was either nearby or on I think he was on the crowd next to me, and he was like, he had a chat with one of his friends afterwards. He's like, I just don't get it. Like when Tim fell off, like he didn't like shout or anything. He just was like, started laughing. And he's like, what's that? I don't get it. How can you do that? And I think because I'd let go, I didn't have that frustration anymore, which is actually way better. It meant that I was in a much better mindset for climbing and enjoying the route rather than, I really want to do it. I want to get to the top, being very goal orientated, which apparently doesn't sort you out at all. Like both Hazel Finley and this other chap who had written a book on, it's called Your Invincible Mind, Francesco. He's got a PhD in sports psychology, and both of those two people said that if you're goal orientated and you focus on the result, it is an inhibitor for climbing at your best or for performing at your best. So the optimum state for high performance is flow state. And if you think about the goal, it inhibits you getting into flow state. And I didn't realize that until, a few days before.
All right, y'all, I just want to take a quick second to talk about this partnership that I've got going with Kilter. It has blown my mind, you guys, how fast I've gotten stronger and more powerful, not just on boulders, but also as a route climber by training on my Kilter in my basement just a couple times a week for like an hour each time. So we're talking like a couple hours a week, and I'm now sending projects outside that are harder and doing them faster than I ever imagined I could. And I'm not just talking about like bouldery projects, but also long, like endurance projects. I'm just much stronger and more confident as a climber now, having spent these sessions on my Kilter full ride. And I put it in my basement where I have pretty low ceilings. I did a creative build where I hinge it from the top. I did a whole video on that. And the team at Kilter is incredibly helpful. So I know it's a big ticket purchase. Obviously, not everybody listening to this right now can have a Kilter board. But if you have the means, I could not recommend this board enough. I've got the 10x10. It's got nearly 400 holds on it. It's got like 15,000 climbs in the database. The community is incredible. And I'm just having so much fun and getting so strong as a climber on this board. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for you. If you use code STRUGGLE, you can get up to $1,000 off your setup. And I've heard from a bunch of you who have done that already, which is awesome. I'm glad you're saving money. And I'm even more glad that you're getting strong and having fun with your training on your own Kilter board. If you've got any questions at all, you can hit me up. You can hit up Kyle over at Kilter. I'm going to put all that information in there. I'm telling you, this Kilter Full Ride is a board unlike anything else you will ever climb on. It is that good. This episode's brought to you by Rungni. Y'all know Rungni. It's Magnus Mitbo's company. I love every single thing they make. Let me highlight a few of my favorite products right now. First of all, the harness pants. Oh my gosh, you probably heard me talk about these pants like for the past year. They are durable, they are stretchy, they are feather light, and they look fantastic. And now, oh man, I'm really psyched. They just launched a new version of the harness pants. It's like an offshoot. It's the harness utility pants. More pockets, elastic waistband for the perfect fit, and also improved sizing. So whether you're rubbing up against rock or trekking through the forest, these pants are tough, they're durable, and they are built to withstand whatever you throw at them. And I also want to highlight Magdust Super Dry. This is a new chalk that they just came out with. Super dry formula. If you've got sweaty hands, or if you're like me, you're spending a lot of time in the gym right now, this stuff will keep your hands sticky on rock or plastic. I love all of it. You can use code STRUGGLE and get 10% off pretty much everything over at Rungni. Let's go. I'd love to kind of unpack both of these elements of what you feel ultimately led to you having the best run that you've ever had on that route. And you noted that Neil Gresham had created this very detailed, very specific plan for you 4 months out that was very tailored to the route specifically, which is cool. I want to learn a little bit more about that. But then also there's this mental side. There's that cathartic release that you had of the expectation, the goal, the baggage, the pressure that you had perceived others had put on this. And those are both two very strong, but also very different, like, elements of performance. And was it both, or was it one more than the other, do you feel, as the difference maker for it to come together on this truly like last go, before you hit the road to the airport?
Yeah, it was both. Yeah, I mean, if you consider that in 2019, when I got past the last bowl, I was literally like 1% away from getting to the top. That was it. And then getting up to, and I've got up to the last bolt, not past it, but up to it 3 times as well. So maybe that was like 2% I needed to get to the top. So really, it was just this tiny margin. And for sure, Neil's training plan was a catalyst for success. And in addition to that, Hazel Finley and Francisco's book about mental training, getting into flow state, was also really, really helpful too. But one last thing as well is that on the day of ascent, the conditions are amazing. It was perfect. You know, it was cool, it was dry, it was windy, and it helps. You know, when the conditions are really good, it makes it easier. And that's a fact. You know, it makes it, you use less energy holding onto the rock because it's more sticky, so you're not squeezing as much. So you can relax better, and especially on the shakes, you can just chill out a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I think it was all three of those. And I really knew that if the stars aligned, I'd be able to do it. And it was at that point where everything lined up. I was in amazing shape. I was relaxed because of the mental aspect of it. From what I'd learned, I'd had that experience where I'd had my breakdown. The conditions were amazing, and I had an incredible belay out. I had Maddie hung on the rope there, like, you know, kind of talking me on, and it was perfect.
When we're trying something that's limit or beyond limit, and you know, or maybe beyond our limit, you kind of need every one of those elements to overlap in that tiny little bullseye of the Venn diagram, and that's exactly what happened for you in this like storybook moment where you like literally had to race to the airport afterwards, which I love. And I have talked to a couple climbers who've experienced that. It happens to Jonathan Segrist like an alarming amount of times, where he's just like,
Yeah.
I've got to get to the airport, and like somehow it comes together. And I don't know, maybe there's something to be explored there at some point. But I want to unpack, if we could, a little more on the physical side of this, the training side of this, and then we can loop back to those other couple of pillars there. But you're like historically a training monster. I mean, we talked about this last year when we connected for the show, and you've got these insane sessions that you do in your cellar there with like the 2-finger downward facing pocket campusing. It's not like you weren't training and then Neil was like, here's a plan, and all of a sudden, you know, you like leveled up. What do you think was different in your preparation this year compared to your other years where you've had really strong efforts?
There were two things that spring to mind. One of them was that there was a confirmation that I was doing the right thing, and then there were these little bonus bits that were extra, which I hadn't thought of before. So there's this classic thing where you know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. And Neil really provided that section, you know, where I was doing all the things that I knew was right, but he introduced just a few extra things that I hadn't thought about and didn't know about. And that was really, really helpful. So it gave me the confidence to know that what I was doing was good. But then a few bonus things too. The volume that he suggested was quite a lot higher than what I normally did. And I amalgamated that into the training that I was doing. So I didn't follow his plan strictly. I sort of grabbed little chunks out of it and then threw them into what I was doing. But the second thing that really came to mind was that he was like, look, Tim, you're strong enough to do this. What you really need to work on is like your skills, you know, like your movement. And I think the last few times that I've been training for Era Vella, I've been doing a lot of strength and physical, like, you know, fingers and arms and stuff like that. Whereas this year, I recreated the route and then I climbed a lot rather than I was doing like max strength stuff as well, but I was climbing a lot more rather than just doing like strength exercises. So I was focusing more on like using poor footholds and using really good technique, you know. So I was trying to climb better. But yeah, it's interesting. Like when I got to Spain this year, I knew I was stronger than last year, but I don't think I was the strongest I'd ever been. I was pretty strong. But also, like last year, I was eating red meat and I got really injured. And this year, I decided not to eat any red meat. And I only ate fish and like plant protein, like lentils and things like that. And amazingly, although when I went into the trip, I was right on the cusp of injury. You know, it could have gone either way, to be honest, because I was right on the edge and I was trying to limit the injuries getting worse. And then by the end of the trip, I didn't have any injuries at all. And I really put that down to what I was eating, like big time, actually. Because that was the only thing I'd done differently. So
That is interesting. that's another element in the pillar. We've talked about mental game, physical preparation, conditions, and then of course nutrition is one of them there. So that is very interesting that you made that change.
And here's one for you as well. And this, you might find this, and I'm sure a lot of people will find this really interesting. So when I was in Spain, I didn't eat gluten, I didn't eat any dairy, and I wasn't eating red meat. I wasn't drinking any alcohol, which I, always didn't drink alcohol before I trained for Era Vella. And then by the end of the trip, I felt amazing. I got back and I was pretty light, and I got back and I basically was like cakes, beer, wine, pasta, like all those things, that I hadn't been eating. I was just like, let's go. I need to put on a bit of weight, and I'm all over it. Let's just like enjoy it, And I put the weight back on in 10 days, and I got injured in my arm. That injury that I'd been like suppressing for the whole trip, it started to flare up.
Wow.
And then I noticed that when I woke up in the morning, like I broke and sprained my ankle like years and years ago. And now my ankle's kind of like, it's a bit inflamed, and I haven't done anything to it. It's absolutely what I'm eating and drinking as to how my body feels. And it's one of the great lessons that I've learned with Era Vella is that being in that sort of performance lifestyle, or I'm basically trying to be an Olympian. That's what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to get that 10 out of 10 with all the schools,
Right.
So whatever I choose to eat or drink is crucial, right, for a long period of time, like for months and months and months. And as soon as I go back to just general diet, drinking, whatever you like, then it puts me back into that situation I was in before, which is kind of like, I don't know, I feel a bit old and I feel like a 50-year-old, right? Whereas when I'm performance eating, Angela and I were eating so healthily, like it was unbelievable how healthily we were eating. And I just felt great, I felt like a youngster again. I didn't feel like a 50-year-old, I felt like a 30-year-old, So what you eat and drink has a big impact on how your body performs. And anyone who's like getting to that point in their lives where they're thinking, oh, maybe I'm too old, or I just can't do it anymore, ask yourself, what are you eating and what are you drinking? Because it does make a difference. Just that, it's not about what drugs you have to take to try and suppress the inflammation or stuff like this. It's about your lifestyle and what you choose to put in your mouth. And it makes a big difference. It certainly does in my experience anyway.
Is it something that you can continue? Because like, as you said, you came home and you like went ham on all the guilty pleasures, which is, I've been quite open about my ongoing relationship. It's an abusive relationship with pastries that I have, but God, I love them and I hate them, but mostly I love them. In any case, there's a mental fatigue, to me at least, to like always be in performance nutrition mode, even though it makes me feel amazing. There's just still something about like having a donut or having a beer. And so, now that you've run that experiment, you did 10 days and now the injuries are coming back, you're not feeling good. What will your diet be like now without like the goal? This, maybe there's a new goal. We haven't talked about that yet, but like without that kind of that giant carrot at the end of the stick encouraging you to be disciplined, how disciplined will you remain?
That's a great question. I can like eat normally and climb 80 plus AC,
Right.
But I can't climb 9A eating normally and drinking normally. It's just not in I think the main reason for that is that I can't get the recovery that I need to be able to train relentlessly for such a long time without my body breaking. So I've got to eat really clean to be able to pull that off. So but another important factor I think as well is that happiness is key. So if you really push it hard with being very strict, are you happy? And I think that there's definitely an aspect to that where, if you do want to have the odd pizza or the odd donut or something like that, go for it, because it doesn't really matter, just the odd bit here and there.
Right.
Your body will tell you, But then if you put that, like get the whole lot together and you're just eating all those things that aren't that healthy, and you're having a few beers or a few wines or whatever, then the whole lot together is that package isn't gonna help you out really. But it's Christmas and I'm going into winter mode, and I don't care so much right now because it's not that important to me. Like from a winter climbing perspective, it's really cold outside, and when you go out with your tools and it's freezing, you kind of need a bit of insulation and a bit of extra. You need a bit more on you basically. If you're really skinny and you've got no insulation, you just get freezing. And then on those big days out in mountains, you haven't got anything in reserve to be able to like draw on. So generally in the winter, I've normally been more relaxed with my food choices because it's good to have a little bit of extra, for when you need it. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But I also know, like talking about things I want to do. So it's winter, right? And I'm not motivated to rock climb right now, and I'm not going to be going on a rock climbing trip anytime soon. And even if I did, what could I find that would inspire me more than Era Vella? Not much. Actually, well, not at the moment anyway. Like I've got some ideas for like next year.
Local? They better be local. We'll bring Katie right back in here.
Yeah, they're short. They're short trips. Yeah, they're like down to the US actually. But anyway, let's not talk about that right now. So in the short term, from winter climbing perspectives, yeah, there are local missions that I want to do, but they're with tools, with ice axes, and I know. Really, to be able to do what I want to do, I will need to stop drinking alcohol, and I'll have to train hard, like probably more than I've ever had to do for climbing with tools. To be honest, like if I really want to do these routes or this particular route, then I'm going to have to step it up a notch and do something that I've never done before in winter. And that's adopt some of the principles that I did with Era Vella to be able to get up to that performance level, basically. So what I'll do is, at the moment, I'm just like chilling out because I think it's important to like ebb and flow. I think that you can't keep your foot on the gas all the time. You just need a break. Like the seasons, or you can't be in performance mode all the time. I just don't believe that that's sustainable. Like I think you have to take breaks and let your body recharge, let your mind recharge, and then you can get ready for the next cycle, basically.
This episode is sponsored by our friends over at PhysiVantage. By the way, PhysiVantage has been a sponsor of this podcast since the very first episode, and that's because I sought them out. I've been a fan and a paying customer of PhysiVantage since long before there was a Struggle Climbing Show. And why would that be, Ryan? Well, because it works, y'all. Their products are made by climbers for climbers. They are science-backed, and then I have just been testing them on myself, a guy in his mid-40s just trying to get after it and level up day after day and year after year. And the PhysiVantage products have really helped me to feel better on and off the rock. My favorite products that I take every single day are the greens. I have those every morning, and I'm telling you, I'm getting sick way less than I ever used to, and I've got 2 young kids, so that's saying a lot. And then I also take their supercharged collagen before every single workout, whether it's a finger training or a climbing day, and their protein. I have their vegan protein or their whey protein, usually once a day, sometimes twice a day, as like my little treat. Their chocolate flavor is like out of this world. I'll mix it in with plain Greek yogurt for even more protein, or I'll just shake it into some cold water. It's just that good. I love everything they make, and I love how I feel. If you want to push yourself in your training and in your climbing, I really do think PhysiVantage is going to make you feel better. And if you want to get a discount, you can use code STRUGGLE15 at checkout to get 15% off your order. That also helps to support me and the show, which I really appreciate, and all of that information is in your show notes. This episode is supported by the awesome patrons of The Struggle, the crew over there. Of course, if you are a member of the crew, then you're not listening to this because you get ad-free and early episodes. But if you are listening to this right now, can I give you just like a 30-second pitch on why I think you will get a lot of value in your life and your climbing by joining The Struggle Patreon? Okay, let's start the clock right now. Well, there's over 140 hours of bonus content, pro clinics, videos, coach chats, my training blogs, all of that is over there and immediately available if you join as a Patreon member. And then beyond all of that incredible bonus content that I think will help you to level up your training and your climbing, but also there's a community, a real community, over 1,000 climbers and counting who are psyched, who are in the group chat, the cohorts. We've got a lot of things happening in the struggle community that just brings us all together. You know, most of us are just like amateur weekend warriors trying to get after it. And there's a ton of resources in the library that are helping us to accomplish that, but also just a ton of support and motivation. I'm really active in there, so it's just a great way to connect with climbers like you. Okay, thank you for hearing my pitch. You can get a free 7-day trial by going over to patreon.com/The Struggle Climbing Show. Check out those bonus episodes and those pro clinics completely for free for a week. No obligation. You can quit anytime, but I think you'll stick around because it really is a great community. All right, that's my time. I love you. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, I really experienced that myself last year. As you know, you and I were talking, and I mean, my big project was only a year in the making, so it paled in comparison to what you had been investing in Era Vella. But it was my Era Vella, and now, you know, I'll choose a new one. But very similarly, I actually sent it sooner than I thought that I would, which was amazing. It was an incredible feeling. I was so proud. But then I was like, great, I can take the best fitness of my life and go do a bunch of other stuff. And I did like almost no other stuff. I just didn't have like the drive or the mental capacity. It's like I had tackled the buffalo and eaten it, and I just wasn't feeling like going out and tackling more buffaloes at the time, you know?
Yeah. Well, congratulations, by the way. That's
thanks.
Cool. I'm stoked for you. Yeah, I think that's really normal. I really do.
And at the time I felt guilty because I was like, I'm squandering all of this fitness, but I just, you know, in retrospect, I'm like, as I reflect, I'm like, well, but I did the thing. Like, I didn't need to get greedy and go do like 10 other things, you know, like I did the thing. And so, you know, I kind of, maybe I earned the relaxation period that came afterwards. Although I guess some pros out there just will like ride one wave to the next, but maybe that's a very small percentage of the population that can do that.
Yeah, I think the competition climbers are more inclined to keep pushing it. But then even still, like, you know, someone like Toby Roberts, you know, that his training is cyclical, you know, and he had some flows as well.
Well, I want to explore with you a little bit more on the physical side here, because as a 46-year-old, and a lot of the people who are listening to the show here, I mean, they span, you know, we just from teens to 70s. I've heard from so many different generations here on the show. But what has been resonating recently is this topic that I've been peeling more back on, which is just kind of how we can continue to perform in our master's years, quote unquote. And an interview that I've had with a coach recently put that after 35 years old, essentially you're kind of, from a genetic standpoint, past what, you know, might be considered your physiological peak. But we know from seeing so many climbers out there who are doing really impressive, incredible things into their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, 60s even, some climbers that I talk to, is that we can continue to perform. And you just proved that with like the biggest exclamation point in climbing for the year, as far as I'm concerned, at 51. And we've talked a little bit about how you shifted some focus to technique. And I'd love to peel back on that a little bit, because one of the ways we as climbers can continue to improve is to get better, not necessarily stronger. But it also seems like you got stronger or fitter. And so, you know, where's that nexus point when you look back at this most recent season here? Are you the fittest, the strongest you've ever been? Are you technically the best that you've ever been? And what's surprised you, or what stands out in those areas as you look back?
I think that the answer to that is yes. I was the fittest and strongest I've ever been. For
Hell
sure.
yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because up until this year, I'd been past the lower crux 8 times in 7 years. And it's about 8C/plus to get past that crux, which is 514B/C, I guess.
Right.
So I've been past that 7 times. And then on this trip, before I sent it, I got past it 12 times just on this trip. So, you know, I think when you look at the figures, they speak for themselves. So, yeah, I was pretty fired up about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
At 51 years old, Tim, you were probably like, you know, the combined age of 2 or 3 of the other climbers that were just like kicking around the crag around there. And here you are just like doing this thing. It's so freaking motivating. I'm so psyched.
Well, so check this out. Here are some more numbers for you. So I climbed my first 8C when I was 40. And then I climbed my first 8C plus when I was 44. And then I climbed my first 9A when I was 51. So before this route, before Era Vella, I'd done 1, 2, 3 8Cs and 1 8C plus. And then in the last 2 weeks of this trip, I was climbing 8C/plus like twice a day, 2 days in a row. And then I'd take a day off and then do it again. You know, and in fact, on the go, the day that I did it, I fell off at the bolt number 17, which is kind of, well, it's, for sure it's 8C plus to get there. And then I rested for 40 minutes and then climbed it. And when I got to the top, I wasn't that pumped either. I was like,
get out of here.
Totally, yeah. It was crazy, man. It was very kind of out of body experience. Like I was like hanging there just going, oh my God, I'm not that tired. Oh shit, this is like, it's going down basically. It's going down, you know. It was a great experience, yeah. So yeah, basically 51, yeah, bringing it all together and eating really healthily. All the what I've learned in those 8 years of trying to get better and stronger, and all the tips and tricks from so many people. I mean, it was a giant collaboration from lots and lots and lots and lots of friends, you know, saying, you know, lots of different things, and then there'd be one little nugget that I'd take on board and I'd be like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll put that into the mix. And then you get that from like 20 people, and you just add it all into this basket of knowledge. And then, you know, the stars align, you get some good conditions, and boom, it happens. But, I mean, it took me 6 years to try and get those ingredients to come together. I mean, if you consider that I was 99% on year, you know, in 2019, and to get that 1% took 6 years of effort just to get that 1%, basically.
The dedication and the focus and the stoke for that long is so impressive, and really, again, very, very motivating, because there's a lot of climbing we can do around the world, and you do that, but you know, you kept going back to this route because you saw the potential in yourself, and you enjoyed the process enough. You enjoyed the quality of the climb enough to want to go back to it and get nearly to the top again and again. I have to make a meal out of something for a second here that you just mentioned, and that was on the send go, when you got to a point, it sounds like it was at a rest, and you were like, I feel good, I'm doing this. And I had a very similar experience when I was working on my first 13A, where I got up to the last rest and I had just fallen 40 times or something like that on the final run to the chains. There's like a kind of a cruxy move, like 3 moves from the chains. But below that move, I got up there and I was like, I smiled and I was like, I feel really good. And I didn't say to myself, like, I'm sending, because it was kind of a lower percentage enough move where like I wasn't like 100% confident, but I was very aware of how good I felt at that point. And can you tell us about that experience? Where was this point where you were having this thought, and was there still business afterwards? Like where was that moment where you were like, this is happening?
Yeah, so this was the 18th quick draw. There's a shake, and it's so shit. It is so shit. Like right. The only reason why it's a shake is because there's 2 holes next to each other. One of them's a 2-finger pocket, first joint, and the other one's back 3 with the left hand. And my goal on this trip was to be able to recover at that shake, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get, like, I was trying to, one of my goals was to hang on this shake for 5 minutes and then go to the top, and I just couldn't do it. It didn't matter how many times I did it, even if I was not tired when I got there. If I hung there for 5 minutes, I'd just be destroyed.
Wow.
And I wouldn't, and to get from there to the top's probably like, I don't know, 8A or 7C plus, or, I mean, who knows? But I'd been up to that shake once on this trip, or was it twice? I don't remember. But anyway, oh no, twice actually. And both times I was absolutely pumped out of my mind. And I'd be just hyperventilating, trying to recover. And the first time, I think I recovered a tiny bit. So rather than being like fully maxed out, I was just less than that, but I was still totally boxed. And then on the other go, I managed to recover a bit more actually, but there's still a little bit of tricky climbing above there.
Yeah.
Whereas on the Send go, I got there and I wasn't that tired, and I shook out for about a minute and I was totally fresh. And I was like, okay, I know that I can climb to the top when I feel like this.
So that chain run, which is equivalent in grade to my life project to date, just for the audience so we understand where we're at here. That, for you, on the Send go, like, was there any point at which you were like, you know, digging deep or bearing down, or was it like a bit of a victory lap?
No, there is one move which is a bit tricky, and I've fallen off that move 3 times before. It was definitely a move which it was the move that I knew that I had to get past, and I was able to get it, and I had to try hard to get that move actually. Yeah.
And so what do you think, like, just reflecting back, you got up to that, what sounds like a very garbage rest. For most, it would be very hard just to kind of hang on those holds.
It's not a rest. Yeah. It's
not a rest.
Well, but on Era Vella, it's a rest because that's all you've got basically.
Right. And so when you got up there feeling better than you had ever felt at, to that point, there's a cumulative, 17 bolts plus or whatever of climbing that got up to that point. Did you just perfectly execute every move up there? What was it, do you think, that rolled up to get you to that point where you didn't feel boxed and have to like try to gasp for recovery?
Yeah, I think there's three answers to that. Number one, the conditions are amazing. It was cold and it was really windy, so it meant I could hang on the holes like comfortably. Number two, I climbed it really, really well. So I got through the bottom crux. Like, I did it really well, actually. Like, so being able to do the bottom crux and do it really well are 2 very different things. So if I'm maxing out and I get to the twin pockets above the bottom crux, then I'm pretty pumped and I'm trying to recover and then keep going. But I know that if I use excellent technique, I can do the bottom crux easily. And on that go, I did it really well. And it meant that when I got to the twin pockets, I wasn't that tired. I just wasn't that tired, really. And so instead of staying there for 2 or 3 minutes trying to shake out so that I could recover enough to keep going, I shook out for like 45 seconds or something, and I then felt really fresh. And it meant the next bit was easy. And then when I got to that top shake there, I wasn't that tired, really. Then I shook out there, and then I wasn't tired at all, and then I just climbed to the top. Yeah.
Yes, dude. When you clip the anchors, like, we know what happened after you lowered off because we've seen the video, and I'm going to link to the video. For those who are listening who haven't seen it, just do yourself a favor and go watch this. It's going to fill you with so much joy. And, so we know what happened there. What happened at the chains?
Yeah, I haven't posted that video.
Oh, you have a video?
I do, yeah.
Was this Maddie? You say Maddie was on the rope near you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was right there. Yeah, he was literally at that little shake we were talking about. He was right there, right next to me, about 3 feet away, 4 feet away or something. And he felt all that section going up to the top. Yeah, I mean, I celebrated, and then I just burst into tears. You know what I mean? I was just a sobbing wreck, basically. I couldn't really do anything apart from cry. Yeah, it was weird. I thought I might sort of cry a little bit, but I basically did the same thing as what I did to the camera, and it was really overwhelming.
Oh, it's just so beautiful, dude. I'm so psyched for you, for the sport. You know, there's just something really special about this. Like when I put out the announcement to the Patreon community that you and I were going to reconnect, they were so psyched. And ever since you sent, they were like, when's Tim coming back? And so they're very happy about that. I got a lot of questions that we'll get to in just a minute here. But one of the recurring themes that I heard from so many of the climbers was that while they'll never climb that grade or that route or whatever, there's just such a camaraderie and an empathy and a shared experience in taking on something with an uncertain outcome and just giving it everything. And sometimes it doesn't work out, you know, and that's okay, because I think we can learn as much, maybe sometimes more about ourselves in those processes. But God, is it great when it does work out, because it feels so freaking good. And, you know, you've done a lot of very, very hard things and very also like dangerous things and risky things. And so now that you have had a little bit of time to reflect, where does Era Vella stand up in that pantheon of experiences that you've had?
It's a great question, really. The reality of it is that it's just blitzed all of them out, you know, out the window.
Yeah.
You know, as far as all the experiences I've had in my climbing life, this one is absolutely at the top. And I never thought a sport climb would have that ability to be able to do that. You know, when I think about all of the other routes that are so dangerous or scary, or, you know, spending 8 days trying to climb up a big mountain in India, for example, or, you know, all those different things. I mean, yeah, I just never thought a sport climb could eclipse all those. It was mind-blowing that could be possible. You know, I've always thought that sport climbing is pretty secondary, to be honest. I mean, like traditional climbing, where you're putting in gear and you're getting scared, it's a much bigger package from an experience perspective. Mm-hmm. And like, I've just been hosting some Brit Rock shows recently, and it's all about trad climbing. And John Dunn talks about, like, you don't remember sport climbs, but I remember like all those big moments, always a trad climb. Well, this is absolutely not that case at all. You know, this is like, honestly, I think the amount of time and effort I've put into Era Vella is got to be the reason why I've had such an emotional response from it, because I've never put that much effort into anything in my life, you know, like not even close. Yeah.
I mean, you just gave it everything, dude. Oh God, I'm so freaking hyped. Oh, okay, well, I want to get to some of these listener questions, which will be, we'll do some, it'll be bonus content for a lot of our Patreon supporters. But I had one question from a listener that I think could be very nice to wrap up this part of our conversation. And this is from somebody named Steve Q. And Steve said, for those of us right now listening to the conversation that you're having, and we're just about to start our own version of Era Vella, a dream that might take years for us, maybe even longer, what's the one piece of wisdom you wish that somebody had given you at the beginning of your journey on Era Vella?
Climbing is fun, and the outcome doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, honestly.
Does it not matter though, Tim?
No.
If you hadn't clipped, if you had popped on that last hard move on the 7C plus run to the chains, and you had popped there and then went to the airport, it wouldn't have mattered?
It would have been like all the other goals. It would have been like all the other goals that I've been doing over 8 years. Like, getting to the top is a bonus. And I think it's crucial that you look at it that way, because if you focus on the goal, you're not going to do it. Not if you're really pushing yourself absolutely to your limit. If you focus on the goal, it's actually going to hold you back. And that's why it doesn't matter. Because if it doesn't matter, that allows you to get into the state for you to be able to climb at your absolute best. But you have to accept that.
Oh man, what an incredible sentiment to wrap up this conversation here with Tim about the goal, the send, the process, and what matters and what doesn't matter in all of this that we're doing here. Whether it's a 1-year journey or a 1-month journey on a project or an 8-year journey like he had. I hope you got a lot out of this conversation. And by the way, there's another 30 some minutes of bonus conversation with Tim that I got a ton out of. A lot of you sent in a ton of really, really interesting and inspiring questions that elicited fascinating answers from Tim in this bonus episode. I'll tell you a little bit about it right now, and then I'll talk about me and my climbing and all that for a second. So what do we cover in this bonus with Mr. Tim Emmett? He answers questions about how to push hard as somebody in their 50s. What's more important, stoke or discipline? I think you can probably guess the answer to that question based on this conversation you just listened to. And also what happened when he lost the stoke on Era Vella. In fact, he talked about a very specific incident where he fully lost the stoke and was just like, I'm done with this thing. And what that meant to him, and also, how he came back from that feeling. And just what that process was like. He talks about finger strength and how important it is. I actually thought he was going to de-emphasize the importance of finger strength, and it's like the exact opposite. He talks about kind of what's the most important thing to be focusing on and building, especially as we get older. So some pretty clear thoughts on finger strength in there, how to practice technique with bad footholds and how to swap in worse footholds along the way. It's kind of a cool little thing that he does on his home woody wall that I found very interesting. What he does and what he thinks about when he's on route resting and how he visualizes the rest of the route to come. And then in certain situations when visualization isn't helpful when he's on a rest and what he does there, whether he likes to calm down or get hyped up before pulling onto a climb, what his pre-climb mantra is, and whether he feels like he's ready to take on another quote-unquote impossible route. We talk about all of that, and then we talk a little bit about my climbing as well. And all of that is just in that bonus episode, and it's available to Apple subscribers or Patreon members. If you're a Spotify person, you can link Patreon right in there. And if you're listening to this soon after the episode came out, I am about to change my Patreon tiers and essentially right price them, because I got a lot of feedback from people that are like, hey, for all that you're putting out, you're not charging enough on Patreon. And so it'll certainly be helpful for me to be able to make a little bit more money on Patreon so that I can keep making this show and paying the bills. But the good news for you is that I'm way behind because of this holiday break, so I haven't changed those tiers yet. So if you've ever thought about coming aboard to support the show and get access to more than 150 hours of bonus content and pro clinics and videos and all that stuff, now is a great time to do it. Well, you can get a free trial. So you can get a free 7-day trial, whether it's on Apple subscriptions or on Patreon. And then after that, if you're psyched and you want to stick around and support me, now would be a great time to lock in that rate because the rates are going to be going up. The tier prices are going to be going up pretty soon. So anyway, you can learn all of that over on patreon.com/The Struggle Climbing Show. Or if you're an Apple subscriber, you can just double click right there to add the bonus stuff right to your feed. And thank you for your support. I appreciate it. I love you. Okay, what else is going on with me? Well, I've been chipping away at my project. If you are a Patreon member, even a free Patreon member, you can hear my monthly plogs, which are my podcast logs, where I talk about my training and my performance and all of that. And so I came out with one just about a week ago at the end of December. And I'm making really good progress on my Bulldog Boulder project. That's the V8. There's the V6 that I'm working on right now. And I feel like I could send that any time, although I hurt my thumb on my last session. It's my best session that I've had. And I've had really good linear progress on that. But I kind of hurt my thumb coming off awkwardly. I dry fired when a foot popped and smacked my thumb against the rock. But anyway, the good news is I thought I was going to be out for a while, but I actually talked to a PT and she gave me some great, she diagnosed it and then gave me some great rehab exercises. And I actually went out climbing, just kind of choss hunting in Indiana, not far from my house. I'm in Kentucky, but just went over the river and found some boulders with a friend. And anyway, pulled some hard moves and the thumb felt fine. So it's still a little tender, a little swollen. I'm kind of taking it a bit easy, but very happy that just even a few days after that incident, I was able to pull some hard moves. So that was cool. And I put up a little first ascent that I actually think is legit quality climb. So I posted that video on Patreon as well if you want to check that out. And what else? Well, I'm about to dive hardcore into some training, strength training, a big strength training block. me and some Patreon members are in what I'm calling a strength cohort. It's like a winter strength cohort. So we're going to be supporting each other, talking about our goals. We're going to have some coaches come in to answer questions and work with us. We've got an app we're going to be using. It's awesome. If you're listening to this right now and you're like, hey, what's up with the strength cohort? I wanted to do it. I'm going to be sending out those invites like today. So probably by the time you listen to this, the email will have gone out, but it might not have, depending on the mountain of emails that I have. Anyway, the strength cohort is kicking off and going to be doing a lot of focus on finger strength training, shoulder training, steep kilterboard climbing, just like really going hard on my strength for the next few months. And yeah, it's still nice out here in Kentucky. I mean, you get like really beautiful days. So I'm getting outside. Haven't been getting on a rope that much. I'm very focused on bouldering. Got some trips coming up. Very psyched. So anyway, that's that. If you want to know any more, you can check out the blog or just hit me up on Patreon or on Instagram. And I'd love to hear from you too. We're kicking off a new year. If you've got some goals, things you're excited about, I really do enjoy hearing from you all. So shoot me a message. Let me know what you got going on. It'll probably inspire me to keep cranking on everything that I'm working on. Okay, I think that's it. I want to shout out the Honnold Foundation for keeping the podcast carbon neutral since day one. I want to thank our sponsors. You heard those ads earlier in this episode. And of course, if you're a Patreon supporter, you get early and ad-free episodes. But if not, those brands that I do the ads for, and all of which I'm like a genuine fan and user of, they help me to keep making this show as well. So please support them. And by supporting them, you're supporting me. And those links are in your show notes. Shout out to Glenn and Philippa and Haley and everybody who helps me to make this podcast week after week. And to you for being an awesome part of this community and keeping me going over here in the podcast/utility closet. You are awesome. Let's get after it. Let's make this year the best year ever. And I will see you next week.